Predictions? What's the match schedule? Here, let's what's a recap show without predictions? All right. Let me bring up the HGC website. See if I can find the match schedule. There was a game of NVT versus TS with a murder chase. If you can find me the timestamp, I'll go over it while I do this. All right, so upcoming matches for NA, we have GFE versus B-Step. GFE wins that 3-1. Team Freedom versus Team 8. Team 8's in a really weird spot, guys. I don't know what's going on with them. I thought they were having a hard time adjusting to the meta. But the next patch is now going to be played on 2.0, so I don't know what they're going to do. I'm going to call that Team 8 3-2. Yeah, Team 8 3-2. No Tomorrow versus Team Freedom. No Tomorrow wins that 3-1. I think No Tomorrow's been up and coming. They've been playing a lot more smoothly. And I think that they're slightly more likely to embrace double support. Slightly, not a lot. Noventic versus Team 8. Team 8 should win that 3-1. I think that Team 8's going to adjust a little bit better to double support because I'm getting a little more flexible in their drafting than Noventic is. GFE versus Tempo Storm. I'm a member of GFE, so I'm going to say GFE wins this 3-2, but I think it's going to be a very, very, very close series either way. And then Superstars versus B-Step. Superstars all the way. I believe in Superstars. I think they're doing really well. I think their drafting has gotten a lot better. And I also think that a team that has the flexibility that they do is always going to do better on a new patch, and they're already doing well. EU, Fnatic versus Tricked. Fnatic takes this, unfortunately. I don't see Tricked. This is probably going to be 3-1. Tricked will have at least one strategy that Fnatic's not comfortable dealing with. That's true. Tempo Storm's in it. See, this is my concern. But this is Friday. I think this is going to be okay, right? GFE's playing against Friday, and they're playing... GFE might actually drop more games against B-Step because they're not going to prepare as much for this as they are for this. Sometimes that's a factor. Be curious. Synergy versus Expert. Expert wins that. Playing Ducks versus Synergy. I'm going to go with Playing Ducks, even though they did drop a set to Be Genius, which no one has so far. Still going to go with Playing Ducks. Team Liquid versus Expert. I'm rooting for my team, guys. I'm rooting for my team. I do legitimately think that they should win that set 3-2. But it's going to come down, in a lot of cases, to drafting really well and then not getting out macroed. Because Tempo Storm is such a good macro team. They're literally so good at macro. They were really the first North American macro team. And they've just sat on the top spot by being better at macro for forever. Team Liquid versus Expert. Expert wants that top spot. I feel like Expert's at a point right now where they're going to break out literally anything if it makes them think they'll get the top spot. At the same time, Team Liquid just has pocket picks that just devastate unusual drafts in a lot of cases. I'm going to say Team Liquid takes it because Expert has to play 2 sets. So it's going to be 3-2 in favor of Liquid, because Expert has to play another set against Synergy, even though they're not playing it very seriously. Fnatic versus Dig. This is the big one that I think everyone would like to know the result. I'm going to go with Dignitas 3-2. And I do think that it's going to be that same dynamic where they win game 1, they win game 3, and they win game 5. I'm also willing to say I could be wrong, but whoever wins game 1 is very likely to take that set. Whoever wins game 1 is very likely to take that set. And if Fnatic changes game 1, I will instantly change my prediction. Be Genius versus Tricked. Tricked takes that fairly easily. That's true. Fnatic has 2 sets as well, so I'm really confident that Dignitas can win this 3-2. Because it does. I don't know what it is about playing 2 sets in the same weekend, even if they're multiple days apart. It really seems to exhaust teams. I don't know if it's the prep or if it's just the knowledge that you have to, you do all that, and then the next day you wake up and you're like, oh man, I got to do that again tomorrow. I got to do that again today. L5 wins. Blossom is not a great team, unfortunately, despite the fact that it does have Wiz on it. Wiz is a very good player. MVP Black beats Raven pretty handily. MVP Miracle beats Mighty. GG versus Tempest. Tempest wins that. And then Tempest beats Mighty. MVP Black versus L5. This is the match where everyone is like, who wins? 3-0 sweep? Oh yeah, I think all of those are going to be 3-0s, honestly. GG may take a game off Tempest. Mighty may take a game off Miracle. I don't think Raven takes a game off MVP Black. So these are going to be 3-0s. These might be 3-1s or 3-0s. This might be 3-2 or 3-1 or 3-0. It just depends. But MVP Black versus L5. I feel like L5 wants revenge for the Eastern Clash. But at the same time, MVP Black doesn't want to lose the belt, right? They want to continue to maintain their record. I'm going to go MVP Black 3-2, but I'm going to have the same caveat. Whoever wins game 1 wins the set. I remember an interview from Wiz where he said around when they started to play together as a team, their captain basically had no idea how to draft. Yeah, that's true. Korea's in a rough spot, honestly, in terms of their lower end players. They just don't have the depth of talent necessary to have like multiple top teams. And I think that's the case for a lot of regions. There's not enough people who actually study the game and respect it to have top teams. There's just a lot of people who are like, oh, I can just go in and win this. I don't have to draft well or thinking about macro or rotate well on the map. All I just have to do is outplay whoever's in front of me on the screen. Doesn't actually work that way, unfortunately. And the players who've realized that are all on top teams. And they don't necessarily make guides to explain that. But they always complain about it. Like, Bakery constantly complains about basic things that he feels like everyone should know that to him are obvious at this point in his development and his understanding of the game. But actually are kind of subtle and not at all obvious to other people. And I think that in their case, they've learned that from their experiences, so they think that other people who've had a similar amount of time should also know it. But it doesn't actually work that way. Number 6 Korean team versus number 6 Europe team. Who wins? Europe team. I don't have a lot of confidence in any of the teams in Korea outside of the top 3, maybe 4. I feel like Tempest is really relying on their team fighting capability as a crutch. Would you adjust the HGC schedule to counter that 2-set weakness? If you had full power of HGC layout, what would you do with it? Ooh, that's a tough question. I mean, the way it works is you'd have to have 4. In order not to have any when repeating, you'd have to only have 4 sets per week. The way China's doing it, China has an additional 3 or 4 weeks in their schedule, 4th versus 4th. So that'd be Tempest versus Expert. I think Tempest wins that, but not by a lot. I don't know. The breaks are like a month long. It's all online anyway. If you just didn't have breaks between phases, you could have 4 sets a week instead of 6. And you would never have this problem. And it could all be on the weekend, so it'd all be on Saturday, Sunday. You wouldn't have any Friday matches anymore. That seems pretty reasonable to me. I don't know. There's probably a reason they did it the way they did. They really wanted those breaks. They wanted to make sure players didn't have to show up every single weekend for 3 months in a row. But maybe there weren't enough weeks. Maybe I'm doing the math wrong. I'm pretty sure that there would be enough weeks, though, to have the full round robin. Doesn't that sound better to you guys? 4 matches a week instead of 6? Per region, obviously. So you'd still have, 16 matches total, because there's 4 regions. 16 best of 5s over 11 or 12 weeks instead of 8. Yeah, exactly. I think the break after the Clash was too long, and this would completely eliminate the breaks. You would just it would be one weekend you would have regular play, the next weekend you would have the Clash, and the weekend after that you would go back to having regular play. Maybe there'd be a week off. Maybe there'd be 1 week off instead of like 4. That sounds reasonable to me. I don't know. I think that might be a better way of doing it. If I had absolute control over HGC, I would at least look into the possibility and do the math. The break after the Clash was too long, and by Sunday I don't watch because I have to get shit done. It's totally fair. Players should have time off sometimes. I mean, they have time off though, right? They have 5 days off, and they only play 1 match a week, so they'd have 6 days off. I mean, you have to scrim regardless, right? If you're a professional player, in order to stay in top shape, you have to be scrimming regardless, but you only have to show up 1 day a week for 1 best of 5. I think that'd be okay. I don't know. I think you would have 1 week off per phase if you did it that way, instead of the 4 weeks or 3 weeks that they had instead. But, I mean, 1 week off per phase. And bear in mind, if you're a professional player, you have a gap that lasts most of November and all of December, because the season goes till BlizzCon, and then it stops until the next year. A bye week might have to be incorporated. You would have to have 2 teams off, possibly, though. I mean, if you had a set that was a bye, it's 8 teams, 4 matches each week, then each team plays once. I don't know. I think it sounds pretty reasonable. Do we have a full calendar? Here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 5 weeks. We would be cutting 1 set from this week, so this would be 5 sets that we'd have to make up. So it's only 2 extra weeks of play. So instead of these being buys, so yeah, we would have had 1 week off after the Eastern Clash, and then regular play would have started up again. And then we would still be at the HGC playoffs. And if we do it on the other side, this is 5 weeks. We would have had 2 additional weeks of play. So we would have had to have 2 more weeks on the back end over here. But we could have immediately started after the Western Clash instead of having the Eastern Clash. What if we could afford more teams, like 12 teams? If you add in more teams, then the numbers get all wonky. I think 8 teams is a pretty reasonable number, to be honest. Especially with the Open happening. I think we're okay in that department. For the record, regarding the NAHGC Open, Vox is disbanded as a team, for those of you who didn't know that, and UTA lost Cure. So the HGC Open was played last night. Let me see if I can bring up the settings for you guys. And refresh this. So UTA replaced Cure with Frozen. UTA is going to face off against Imported tonight, and then LFM versus Even in Death also made it to the semifinals. This will be able to be played tonight on the main stream, and the finals will be played on the main stream. The semifinals or the third place match rather, is cast on this channel, and that means that the current standings are LFM Esports at 520, Imported Support at 385, UTA at 300, Even in Death at 240. Vox is gone, just gone. So I actually don't know who the top 6 teams are going to be. Currently, it looks like the lowest number of points you could have had is 10, because it's the top 16, which means that 2 Boosted, Blank, Happy Pals Club, Trademark Gaming, Artanis, and Artanis. I don't know what they're going to do if some of these teams don't exist anymore. I haven't seen Happy Pals Club in a while. I think Artanis and Artanis is still around. They're a cheerlead team, so they're pretty stable. Trademark Gaming is still around as far as I know. So it's going to be interesting to see which of these teams actually get in. Do you think any of the Open teams can beat any of the bottom tier teams in the HGC at the moment? either NA or EU. I'm confident that the answer for NA is yes. It's just going to come down to how much they prep. We've talked about today already how devastating it can be to play in a best of 5. And how you really have to prep your strategies and think about the entire set in a really clear way to know which games you're going to be able to take and which games you're not going to be able to take. Best of 7, even more so. Because in a best of 7, in a best of 3, you can't really learn enough about your opponent. Like, you lose game 1, you learn maybe that, okay, they have a good Ragnaros player. And in the game 2, you ban the Ragnaros and they pick up Medivh. And in game 2, you're like, oh, they have a good Medivh player, so they can do this, this, and this. What are the maps where that's not good? Oh, wait, the set's over. They already won 2-0. In a best of 5, you can be like, okay, we've kind of figured this out, what their strategy is. We counter. And that's why you will see upsets where a lower tier team loses 2 games and then wins 2 games and then loses a game. So it goes 2-2-1, right? This happened with Tricked versus Liquid. They were Misfits at the time, but Tricked versus Liquid in Phase 1. Because they'll come in with strategies and be like, this strategy doesn't work, this strategy doesn't work. Okay, we found a strategy. In a best of 7, it's even more so. The better, more experienced team has even more time to respond to that, so you need to constantly be throwing out different strategies and think really clearly about how you're going to do each individual map as opposed to having just like a gimmick. So LFM is almost guaranteed. Is there a chance for 3rd or 4th to make it? It's top 16. So, like, all the points due from the Cups is seed you into the top 16 for the playoff bracket. So LFM Esports guaranteed to make it into the top 16. Imported Support guaranteed to make it in the top 16. UTA guaranteed to make it in the top 16. Even if they didn't show up this week, they'd be guaranteed to make it. As for which teams are going to make it all the way to the Crucible, who knows? So what you're saying is that the Crucible will be messy and hype. Yes, the Crucible will be very messy. And probably pretty hyped. I really do hope that the teams that make it all the way to the Crucible think about strategies for each individual map. Because there's 9 maps in the HGC map pool, right? Each team gets a ban, which means that they know for a fact they're playing on potentially 8 maps. If they think of a clear strategy that works for them and they practice it on each of those 8 maps, then they're going to be in good shape. Or think of a strategy that's going to work for them on 5 maps, and then they understand that they're going to sacrifice 3. Also totally fine. Yeah, for those of you who don't know how the HGC Open works, it's the Cups give you points, and the points seed you into a top 16 bracket that's going to get played 2 weeks from now. So those top 16 teams are all going to play against each other one more time to see which 2 make it to the Crucible. And it's in the official rules somewhere. See if we can find it. Maybe it's on the official HGC website as opposed to... Because this is just the rules for the Cups. So I don't know who the top 16 are going to be, given the fact that the points are really weird and a lot of these teams have disbanded. Maybe they'll just do a top 8 instead. I don't know. Evening Cap, you went over the HGC. I went over the HGC. We're just talking about random topics now. People ask me a question. We'll be it, though. Unless anyone has any other questions. I don't know enough about the EU teams, for the record. The other question was EU Open. I don't know enough about the EU teams. I've actually wanted to cast EU Open. Yes, that was Dark Matter. I have permission to do so whenever I want to, but I haven't been waking up and logging on at the right time to get over to EU and cast the EU Open division, which is sad because I would have liked to cast some of those teams. I've just been really, really busy with everything with the house and writing guides and trying to keep on top of doing the prep work for this show and going alone and working on a 3rd show that should be coming soon on Thursdays. Did you miss the analysis on Kenma's Brilliance? No one asked a question about Kenma's Brilliance. We did talk about how Noventic has a weak link. Thoughts on Cassia level 4 talents? Is there going to be an open part 2? Yeah, there's an open. Let me see. So you can see HGC Crucible, mid-season brawl. I guess that's as far as the schedule goes currently. So the overall plan, as they published it, was mid-season brawl is an international event with, you know, everyone, and then after the mid-season brawl, they're going to have another regular season of play with another Western Clash, another Eastern Clash, and then BlizzCon at the far end. Is Shot on any of the HGC teams? I don't think Shot's on any of the HGC teams. What's the Thursday show? No, you don't know the Thursday show yet. I'm undecided on what I want the Thursday show to be. I have 2 ideas. I'm batting them back and forth. But neither of them are fine enough to talk about yet. Kenma hasn't overextended yet. Instant feed. Thoughts on Cassie level 4 talents? Plate of the Whale is really hard to finish. I think Ring of the Leech is just too good to pass up, honestly. Getting sustain on a hero who otherwise doesn't have sustain is kind of a big deal. So Kira quit UTA and is now saying he wants to get picked up by an HGC team. Actually, Kira... I can't talk about it. Kira left UTA. That's public information. I feel comfortable saying that. I guess it was because of personality conflicts within the team. A lot of UTA was at one point just considering disbanding completely. A couple of the players posted they were free agents on Twitter, but they just picked up Frozen and decided to push along with Adam. And Kira wants to play in the HGC. So Kira's question is, Kira's hope is that he gets picked up by one of the HGC teams. I think he has 2 offers, potentially, from 2 different HGC teams. So Kira is going to get picked up by an HGC team. We just don't know which one. I have some ideas about it, but I don't have permission from him to talk about it. Man, I really want to name a Division 3 cheerleague team Kenda's position. Frosty. Not Frozen. Frosty. Sorry, guys. There's too many people with the name Frozen in this game. Highlight of MVT versus TS for me was 4 minutes into 2 and Spider Queen Ken has only been out of position once. That was a really ridiculous game. I'm not gonna lie. For the record, people tell me a lot of things, and I don't necessarily talk about them on stream. I'm really good about that. If someone hasn't given me permission to say something on stream, I just won't. Do you know if Arthlon has more than one offer? I presume he has an offer from him tomorrow. I didn't know Arthlon was coming back to HOTS. But I would not be at all surprised to know that he had offers. A lot of people think of Arthlon as a very good player. I mean, he can be just as good as Rich if he practices for an hour. And I'd certainly want Rich on my team. Arthlon has been playing in Cell recently. I haven't been watching Cell streams lately, unfortunately. I've been really busy. Yeah, I mean, HGC teams are going to make some substitutions. I know that's just going to happen. A lot of teams have players that are underperforming or are performing but not putting in practice, and it's causing a strain for the team. So, you know, after the window opens up and teams have the option to drop one player and pick up another player, I guarantee that's going to happen for probably at least 3 teams. It's just a question of which teams and who ends up getting picked up. But there are a number of, you know, free agents out there that are all really, really good players who have the comms experience. So, serious question for you: if you could be someone's co-caster, which the HGC casters would you want to cast with? Ooh, that's a tough question. I think my strengths as a caster really do lie in analysis. So I need a caster who can, put a lot of energy into the cast and be sort of the hype from the cast. And I don't think there's anyone better at that than Gilly in the scene, to be honest. Like, if you look at the sheer energy level of casters, it's like Gilly and then Kendrick, or not Kendrick, Kalaris, begins with a K. Gilly, Kalaris, Kaldor can be really loud, but I feel like Kaldor and I do a lot of the same things. Trixler would be good. I don't think casting with Red would be fun for me, but I don't think it would be great for the cast, if that makes sense. Yes, exactly. Ghoston got it. Crab Dread would be just analysis overload. Stray said they're not replacing anyone. Honestly, Superstars is doing really well, and they're just finally starting to gel after the change to hosty drafting and Goku Stray shot calling. So I don't want to see Cav and Solid Jake. I've never casted with Solid Jake. I mean, if you really want to see that, feel free to ping him about it and see if he wants to bring me on for the HGC Open some week instead of J-How. Although J-How has that voice. I'm not sure I can compete with that voice. Dread needs Gilly. You're not wrong. Dread gets lost sometimes. He needs a shining light to bring him back to the path of yeah. Let Cav really let his inner savage out on Bloodlust. I'm not a savage caster. Dread guest would be too much cynicism. Honestly, Dread, the way Dread deals with his cynicism is kind of funny, because he just like, if something like is totally awful, he'll just AFK. He'll just talk about something else. He just won't comment on the game anymore. I think SSS has apparent weak links, but since Ray doesn't really play off outside of scrims, I don't think he cares enough. I mean, that core has been together for so long that none of them are going to get replaced, and Hosty and Goku are definitely starting to show up and carry a lot for the team. So, given the fact that the core is not going anywhere, and you don't want to replace Hosty or Goku, it makes sense to me that Superstars isn't planning to replace anyone. Yeah, you're not. I want to see Zoya bring out your brutality. I mean, I could be mean, guys. I find it rather easy to be critical. When I'm casting, I'm not mean on purpose, because I don't think it's just entertaining for the viewers, and I certainly don't think it's entertaining for the people who were playing in the game and come back and watch the game afterwards. I got started casting Chair League. I'm not going to be mean to my the people playing the game. They're doing their best. Which of the 4 regions would I want to cast as an HGC caster? I mean, Korea. If I could just pick a region, I would want to cast Korea. E would be my number 2. But when I was casting the Gold Club World Championship, the first time I got to cast MB Black, I was like so excited. I've been a fan of MB Black for forever. I've been a fan of L5 since they formed. I've been a fan of Noble S for his entire professional career as a Heroes of the Storm player. So if I got to cast Korea every weekend, I would just be ecstatic. I should cast Korea. Well, earlier in the stream we had a vote, and I'm going to watch the games every Monday, at least some of the games every Monday live on stream, and give commentary. So there will be some live Korean commentary from me. I'm not going to watch the games in advance, so I'm basically just going to pull the best sets and watch them. So I think it's going to be MB Black versus L5 this week. I'll definitely watch that entire thing on stream on Monday. But with no sound, unfortunately. Which is unfortunate because, the sound effects sometimes are important. I could just get OGN to give me a clean feed. Or if they could get them to post the replays a little bit faster. Getting toxic just tilts people. Solid flame-free casting keeps the viewers focused on the games. Yeah, and that's always been my thinking. you guys can think of some more questions. I'm gonna go get some water. If there's no more questions when I get back, then I will end the stream. If I could pick one of the pro player Blaines, who would it be? Noblesse. Hey, I don't think you guys understand that I'm a macro player when it comes to Heroes of the Storm. I just love the strategy aspect of the game, and I really genuinely feel like Noblesse understands that aspect of the game better than any other pro player. So if I could talk to anyone, it'd be Noblesse. I'm sorry. I'm a fanboy of Noblesse. That's just who it would be. How is UTA doing with Frosty? I did not get to see any of UTA's games because the mainstream took them, and I was casting Even in Death. So I have no idea how UTA is doing with Frosty. But they made it to the semifinals, so... My number 2 might be ADRD. I don't know. Number 2 would be really hard. Because Quacknix would be really interesting. Bakery would be really interesting. How many languages can you speak? I speak English really well. Yeah, I've never been good at other languages. How similar do you think amateur coordinated is to pro play? Is it the same thing but worse, or are there clear qualitative differences? There are clear qualitative differences. Pros plan out their sets, they plan out their drafts, they study the enemy team's drafts, they know how they're going to respond, they understand the potential meta strategies that could be picked up, and yeah, there's no comparison between even top amateur teams and the top pro teams. There's a huge difference in the amount of preparation, the amount of practice, the cleanness of the execution of various things. There's like super big differences. Do I know if all the HGC teams have coaches now? I think the majority of HGC teams do not have a coach still. I was hoping you'd follow them again. I mean, I would have if the mainstream hadn't taken them. What % chance that MVT loses during the Crucible? MVT's a team... Someone asked me the same question last night. MVT is a team that really can perform well when their backs are against a wall. There's such a huge risk for them. They really don't want to drop down. It depends on which team takes them on. If the top team takes them on from the playoffs, then I think their odds are 50-50. If the second best team takes them off, then I think that their odds are like 60 to 70% that they'll stay in HGC. But there's... And we talked about this earlier in the stream. Their ceiling is really high. When they're playing on point, they are a really good team. But when they're like playing with their average, it's really low. So their average loses to every team in the Open right now. That's likely to make it through. They will lose to UTA, they'll lose to Imported, they'll lose to Even Death, they'll lose to LFM. They will lose if it's their average play. But if they feel backed into a corner and they turn it on, whatever it is psychologically that makes them play amazing and out of their mind sometimes, there's no way the Open teams will be able to take them out. So it's like, which version of Eventic do we see that day? And I don't know. Getting Kenma to stand back would make them pretty much auto-win versus any of the Open teams. I'm not even exaggerating. If Kenma just doesn't die... I had to step away when you started talking about Kenma. Do you think they will drop him? No, he's in his brother. There's no way. Unless Kenma voluntarily steps out to be replaced, I don't see a situation where Kenma is not on Neventic. Do you think the top HGC win challenge NVT or No Tomorrow? I think it depends on the results of the next couple weeks. If No Tomorrow continues to rack up, wins, and Niventic continues to lose, I think most teams are going to look at that and be like, well, let's just challenge the team that's losing. But I think No Tomorrow is a more predictable team in many ways, and so if I were prepping for a series, I would pick No Tomorrow, because if a team has predictable strengths and weaknesses, then you can practice and prepare for them. If a team has unpredictable strengths and weaknesses, and Niventic certainly does, then you can get into a game, and depending on the day, you can look at your practice and be like, nope, out the window. They're playing fine today. This weakness is not currently true, or at least not true today. Right? That's from my perspective. I would rather go up against something that's reliably a certain way, whether that's good or bad, than unreliably good or unreliably bad. But teams are going to have their own perspective on that. It's so weird. Before HG started, I think most people thought bottom two would include Team 8 and MVT would be at least top 4. I think I had Team 8 at 7 or 6 in my poll. I had B-Step a lot lower than most people had them ranked at. I had Tempo Storm in the top, like undisputed Tempo Storm in the top, and then GFE is number 2. But yeah, Team 8 was the big surprise. Looking back on it, it feels like they did a lot of really smart things with wave clear comps that involved Ragnaros, and then they started to move away from Ragnaros wave clear comps. They started to fall down. I think that if they just played macro games, they would be really good, but then they stopped picking macro heroes. I remember before HC started, people were saying MVT was top 3 and maybe top 2, and No Tomorrow was considered most likely to break into top 3. I mean, a lot of different people said a lot of different things pre-HGC. The only reason that I remember exactly what I was thinking about the teams at the time was because I took that poll really seriously and sat down and looked at the results and thought about it. I mean, I always expected Team 8 to be in the middle of the pack at least. That was before Chu got replaced, though, because Chu's a really highly competitive player. He would want to be somewhere in the middle of the pack. He wouldn't want to be at the bottom. But then Chu got replaced, and they picked up Prismat. I just wasn't sure how that was going to work out. Prismat has a problem of not listening to calls. It's the reason he was booted from Superstars. So you could probably actually find that poll if we went and looked for it. Do I want to find the poll? Let's see if I can find the poll. So it is Astral Authority at number 1. This is Tempo Storm. Denial was at number 2. Or no, so Denial was number 8. So a lot of people thought Denial was going to be at number 8. Gale Force Esports, number 2. Niventic, looks like they were 3rd. No Tomorrow, 5th. Strongest confidence right there. Lord Boo said it. Grandmaster Jackets, which is now Team Freedom, was 8th or 4th? 8th. So that was not the case. Dumpster Superstars, pretty solidly at 6th. I think they're a little bit better than that, but I think that's a fair assessment. And then Chew ate my hot dodge. No, so Grandmaster Jackets was at 4, and then Chew ate my hot dodge was at 8. Interesting. Not following calls is supremely tilting for a shot caller? Yeah, it is. I actually thought Freedom had the most potential to become a top team, but unfortunately it hasn't played out that way. Happens. I don't know. I really do feel like No Tomorrow and Team Freedom both have the same problem of they play like they're playing as a 5-stack in Hero League. I don't really see them consistently execute strategies that kind of require comms, which means they're never going to beat one of the top EU teams. I would be actually surprised if the 4 through 8 in NA could take even a single game off of Fnatic, Dignitas, or Liquid. So I feel TA would be stronger if they replaced Prismat. He seems to make very poor talent choices pretty often. Prismaticism has always been a fairly questionable player. I mean, there's a reason he keeps getting shuffled around from team to team. I think Team 8 picked him up out of desperation because they needed to replace someone to replace Chu like right away. So, do I think Kira would be a good replacement for Prismat? I mean, they don't currently play the same roles, so that would be an adjustment for the team. But if Kira made it onto Team 8, that would definitely be a boost for Team 8, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, the top 3 lost in a professional environment. But I'm like, even if they were scrimming in a casual like scrim on the same continent, I don't think they'd ever win a single game. That's how different the level is. Like, you can lose a game from like a single mistake in the late game. I don't think that even if EU made a mistake like that, that the 4 through 8 teams in NA would have the wherewithal to exploit it. What do I think of Yoda as a player? I've never seen Yoda do anything really exceptional. That's the way I'm going to put it. Yoda is like a solid player, and I think teams need, to some degree, solid players. They need players who, if they see an opportunity, they can exploit it. They have good communication skills. They just focus on doing the best that they can and contributing to the team. And then you have the tank who's like trying to think of everything at the same time. You have the shot caller, the support. Like, those are the critical roles. Yoda's a solid player. He could definitely be better. He misses a fair number of his skill shots. He doesn't do as much damage as he could. So there's areas that he can improve in. But he's solid enough, considering that he's always doing his best for the team and responding to what the team needs. And since Heroes of the Storm is such a team-focused game, it's hard to ask for more than that, as long as their mechanical execution is reasonably high. What do I think of Yoda as a fictional character? You need someone who won't clown. Yeah, Vasamasti has a better way of putting this than I do. You need someone who won't clown. As long as everyone on your team is a player who won't clown, and then you have like one reasonable shot caller, you're gonna be in okay shape. Do you think GFE will replace Equinox? I don't think GFE is likely to replace anyone, to be honest. I think that it's something to talk about. I think that I would be surprised if they hadn't talked about it at all, because having a tank is so important, and it's going to take a while for Equinox to become like a really good tank player. If he ever does. Some people just don't have the aptitude. But there's no NA players to replace him. There's just no tank mains in NA who'd be like, yeah, that guy's obviously a better pickup. They don't exist, so I don't think it's very likely. Hey, more Claudia. Welcome to the stream. Have I really not gotten... Let me check something real quick. Heal John, thank you for the follow. Have I not gotten any follows this stream? I feel like my alerts are on, but they're not working. Oh, there it is. Mark Claudia, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. I don't think it's very likely. Which tanks would you recommend picking up as a platinum player? Playing with 4 friends in TL, and I want to widen my arsenal. So far, it's been Muradin and Arthas. Arthas isn't a tank. If you're running Arthas, you have to play like you don't have a tank. You can play like you have double bruiser. Muradin is arguably the best tank in the game, but he's also extremely high skill cap. The easiest tanks to play that are reasonably effective are Johanna and ETC. But ETC with his nerfs is not as good as he was before. Who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting one hero. Nubrak. Nubrak's pretty easy right now. Hitting his burrow charge is the hardest part about playing him. But yeah, playing Johanna is usually reasonably forgiving. Lol, Varian is the best tank. Varian's relatively easy to play, honestly. He's not bad at all. The problem is that you're not very good for the first 10 levels. Thanks, Mark Claudio. I appreciate that. I think Kira would be a good tank. If Kira role swapped a tank, he would and got good at it, he would have an open invitation to every HGC team. Pretty much every team needs more tank players. Even if they have a tank player, double tank is so common that having another player who can consistently play tanks well is just really important. Chen's usually not a tank. Chen is usually not a tank. Chen is a hero who dominates particular solo lanes, otherwise he's not worth picking up. Well, thanks. Yeah, the episode that I did with Kyle Fergus was actually really, really fun. Stitches is valid. I mean, Stitches is a tank. The thing about Stitches is that you're really dependent on hitting your hooks, and you're really dependent on your team playing patiently while you line the hook up and hit it. So he works really well in certain niche situations in pro play, but in like unorganized Hero League, Stitches is pretty questionable. Although his win rate has gone up with his recent buff, mostly because he became nearly unkillable. If the heroes were real, which 2 heroes would you want to have an interview with? I mean, probably one of the human ones so that I don't just get eaten. I feel like Diablo would just kill me. So... can I pick the skin? Can I like have an interview with Sakura Ariel? Just because that would be really awesome to have footage of in real life. And Lunar Li Ming. There we go. Chen is a tank when they don't have stuns. If you're ever in any team comp and they have no displacements, no stuns, and no silences, Chen will win the game. So will Sonya. But generally speaking, you don't have drafts like that. If MVT doesn't get kicked, do you think they'll replace Tomster? Maybe. Niventic seems to always want to replace someone because it's always someone else's fault that's not Kenma. You two should be on each other's streams more. I definitely like you talking with Kyle. I'll see if I can get Kyle to want to be on the stream again. Or me be on his stream, either way. Skype interview with 2 heroes. Oh man, it's a Skype interview? Not as interesting. They've replaced everyone except the Feed brothers. No comment. No comment. I think we've abandoned the concept of a show at this point because we've literally just been talking about random topics for 44 minutes and viewership's going up. So I don't know how to respond to that. I made us